Second fight in a row where kind of the post-fight narrative is, oh, it was really close, all that kind of stuff. Dana was in here earlier, and he said that just from what you did so early in your career, the standard is so high for you, or the expectations are so high for you to perform. Do you think, in the sense that it kind of clouts their judgment in a fight? They see a guy, giving you a little bit of trouble, and maybe they think he's doing better than he actually is, in a way?
Yeah, I got to watch, I think it was Gilbert Melendez, and I want to say it was Dominick Reyes. They did an interview recently where they watched my Thiago Santos fight. They watched it without commentary, and they also watched it without. They watched it after some time had passed, and they got to look at it without all the emotion, and they realized, they realized maybe this fight, maybe Jon really did win the fight, So I think I have set a high standard. Out of maybe 30 fights, only 3 people have put me into an actual competitive match. Seeing me with black eyes, seeing me get punched is not something that happens every time I show up. So people definitely get really excited, even when an opponent throws a jab. When an opponent, at one point I think I fell to the ground. I wasn't hurt. I bounced right back up. But the fans loved that. You know what I mean? So it's hard when you when people expect great things out of you at all moments. I'm still a martial artist like everyone else. I bleed. I have insecurities. I have weakness. I have pain right now. So it's hard when not only you're fighting for these records, but you're fighting for people's approval. You're fighting to look extraordinary every time. It's a lot of pressure.
And with that said, though, I'm sure you would prefer to have the dominant performances, the finishes and everything. In your mind, is there anything you could be doing, whether it's in your preparation in the fights itself, to make these fights more definitive and not having us have these discussions about being close afterwards?
Yeah, I'm happy with what myself and my team's been able to accomplish. Out of my last 4 fights, I finished Alexander Gustafsson, which was, he sent me to the hospital the first time. I experienced morphine for the first time with him, and I finished him. And then Anthony Smith, I didn't get the finish, but, he was in the fetal position for a lot of that fight. That was a dominating performance. And unfortunately, for some of my fans, Thiago Santos and Dominick Reyes, I couldn't put them away, and they challenged me. But there's good in that. One of Mike Tyson's biggest problems was that he was so dominant, people lost interest. So the fans got their money worth tonight by seeing me go through the ringer and getting to see the heart of a champion. That's totally worth the $60 you paid on pay-per-view. So there's good in this.
Yeah, and lastly for me, you mentioned the history books and records and stuff a few times up here. Most title fight wins in history now. You're one of the few people to have 20 UFC wins, longest unbeaten streak, all these things. I think I saw you mention that you're one of the greatest American athletes in the UFC quote they sent out. What does just tonight making this type of history mean to you and your legacy?
It means a lot. As of right now, it's hard to, I've been so focused on winning this fight. I haven't really thought about everything this means. But I know it means a lot. There's been so many tremendous athletes to compete in the UFC, and to do something that none of them has done, it means a lot. I'm happy for myself, but I'm more happy for my coaches. These guys are a part of something special. When they get to tell their grandkids, I trained possibly one of the baddest fighters ever, and hopefully my record still stands when they have grandkids. I think years from now, what I did tonight will be more appreciated. I really don't see anyone beating this record for a very long time. If George St. Pierre came back, I guess he could compete for that to get right. Could he? Yeah, he's one behind me. So George will be the only person that could come back and compete for this record. Outside of that, I don't see anybody getting up there with that record. Mixed martial arts is getting harder and harder. The holes in people's games are closing up. Everyone has takedown defense now. Everyone knows a little jiu-jitsu now. Everyone can switch stances and do things like that. So I think I'll appreciate what happened tonight, 10 years from now when that record is still standing.